The smart money in real estate buys in key markets before prices start to take off. The essence of smart investing is not buying in overheated markets like Perth, but targeting locations that have the credentials for long-term growth but are currently at a low point in the cycle. And right now, the location that meets those criteria better than most is Victoria, particularly Melbourne. Most property investors are herd animals, diving into markets when they read that prices have risen 15 or 20% in the past year or by 50% in the past 3 years. Buying in such a market means you're likely buying at or after the peak of the market. The smart money would have been there 2 to 3 years ago, and it's now focused on places that are early in the growth cycle. And that's why Melbourne makes more sense than Perth for property investors seeking to buy strategically for capital growth. The Melbourne market, in simple terms, is situated where Perth was 3 years ago, before prices started to rise and rise. The Melbourne market is underpinned by one of the nation's strongest state economies and boosted by population growth amongst the highest in the country, enhanced by overseas migrants and students. It hasn't had the price growth of other cities in the past year, but it has had a big uplift in buyer activity, which often is a precursor to elevated prices. And of course, vacancies are ultra low, putting further upward pressure on rents. To find out more about why Melbourne and regional Victoria should be strongly considered by property investors, there are 2 key actions that you can take. One is to tune into my April 17 webinar featuring leading national buyers agent Kate Hill of Advisable, and the other one is to get our Victoria Hotspot bundle featuring our reports on Melbourne and regional Victoria. These 2 great sources of key information will explain why now is a good time to consider Melbourne and regional Victoria, which metrics point to capital growth in Victorian markets, while recent rental reform should not deter investors, which price points are attracting the greatest buyer demand, why attached dwellings need to be considered in this market, and finally, which Melbourne suburbs and regional centres deserve the most attention.